The reason why I wanted to talk about loneliness today is because I feel lonely in my own life. I sometimes look around and I see the highlight reels too often, and they're loud. They're really loud. Those highlight the differences between their lives and mine, and it makes me overly critical of my own life. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Please Excuse My OCD. My name is Tyler, and if this is your first time joining us, welcome. If you are returning, I'm so glad to see you. It's been a minute since I've done one of these one-on-one couch episodes, but I have been very, very busy talking to people in the OCD community and getting to know them and hearing their stories. I just needed to take a second to chat with you one-on-one and talk about something that I think is extremely universal. I think it's something that can unite all of us, and that is loneliness. I will be talking about loneliness as it pertains to OCD. However, you don't have to have OCD or even know anybody with OCD to really connect to this episode. This episode is a reminder to myself, but also a way for me to reach out to you and talk about loneliness, because I think we live in a time that is more connected than ever and more lonely than ever. Let's talk about it. As always, I am not a mental health professional. I am simply someone who has OCD and has had it for all of his life. So if you are struggling, please seek advice from a mental health professional. I am wearing one of my all-time favorite shirts today. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a shirt of my cat Banja and I. Sometimes when I'm feeling really low or lonely, I'll put on something like this to remind me that it doesn't have to feel so serious. I don't have to take life so seriously all the time. And this is also a great conversation starter. I love going out to coffee shops and I'll wear a shirt of myself with my cat on it, just so I can leave the door open for any conversations that might come my way that day. And that's one thing that I do to feel less lonely. I just wanted to share that with you. Maybe it'll jog your brain with some ideas, ways to feel a little bit less lonely or a little bit less serious. We have to agree on what loneliness is, right? What is loneliness? See, the Google AI overview, when you type in what is loneliness on Google, this is what it says. Loneliness is a state of mind that can cause people to feel isolated, disconnected, or empty. It can also make people feel unwanted or like something important is missing. Loneliness can occur even when people are around others, such as work or school. Thank you, AI. I feel like that's pretty accurate. I wanted to use the Webster's version of it, but it was like 3 words and did not encompass what I think it should encompass when it comes to loneliness. It is a state of mind that can influence an emotion and can influence behavior. It's so interesting. Like, we all will feel loneliness on some level throughout our lives in different ways too. Loneliness can feel so different at different times in your life, depending on different scenarios. Like, regardless of like mental health status, what it is that you struggle with, whether that's OCD, bipolar, ADHD, whatever it is, or nothing, you've felt lonely before. And I hope that this podcast episode can serve as a way to reach out. I feel like loneliness is a present traveler if you have OCD, and has been a present traveler for a long time, probably long before you even knew that you had OCD. I talked about this on a TikTok the other day where I felt like a freak of nature as a 10-year-old. I remember leaving the bathroom one day because one of the compulsions that I had to do as a child was I would make sure to touch if you look at a light switch, there's like screws that hold in the light switch plate. And at least in my parents' house, I would have to touch each screw with every finger and then touch every light switch on the plate before turning off all the lights before leaving the room. So no matter what room I was in, I would have to make sure to touch the light switch screws and touch the light switches with all of my fingers before leaving. If it wasn't done perfectly, I'd sit there and do it again until I was satisfied. I remember leaving the bathroom one day after doing that. I washed my hands and I thought to myself, there is absolutely no way other people think like this. There's absolutely no way that other people do this. Like, this is not normal. And I had not talked to anybody about it at the time because I really didn't think anybody would understand. And I really didn't understand it myself. When you have something going on that you are not even sure what it is, and you're not sure that someone else is going to understand, you recluse, you pull inward. And you're like, you know what? It's much easier for me to deal with this on my own than to open myself up to criticism and judgment, because if they don't understand it, I'm going to feel even more lonely. And when you're also in a thought spiral of intrusive thoughts, like I used to have heinous thoughts as a child, and I would just think to myself, I got to figure this out. I would ruminate and go over things, and I would be with family, I would be with friends, but I would not be there. I would be here, and I would spend all my time there. So the feeling of loneliness, I think we really have to be aware that it's not always in conjunction with who's around you. It really doesn't have to do with that. It's the quality of the time that you have with those people. It's the quality of the relationships that you have with those people. It's the quality of the relationship you have with yourself and your brain, because these are the deeper underlying currents that really dictate our whole world. When we talk about ruminating and intrusive thoughts and carrying out compulsions, contamination OCD was one of my big ones, and it still is. And I would avoid gatherings. I would avoid parties. I would avoid getting together with people because of that contamination fear. And that itself is isolating. That itself is saying, you know what? As much as I would love to spend time with you, I am too afraid to. And not only do you feel lonely in the terms of not carrying out and being around those people, but also you feel lonely because you don't understand that mechanism of what's going on, and you don't think other people do either. So you turn inward, and it's scary. It's really scary. I think all of these tie in together to the feeling of loneliness with OCD. There's the factor of feeling misunderstood. There's the factor of you are not sure if other people think like this. You are not sure if you will be judged. And also you're almost afraid to know what it is, because then once you label it, then there's another judgment that comes after that. Or at least for me growing up, I felt that. Like if I have this or if I have that, what are people going to think of me? I think the conversations have changed around mental health and OCD specifically, even though there's still a stigma behind it. There is still a change in attitude towards how we open up to people and how we accept them and love them through these insecurities, through these changes, through these differences. I truly do believe that we are changing. And we talk about being able to find social support, people that understand you. We are not able to do that if we don't find people to trust and find people to open up and take that first step to going to the social event, even though you're scared. I love this saying, and I've been seeing it everywhere in the OCD community, especially on social media, but it's do it scared, do it anyway. It's okay to be scared to open up. It's okay to be scared to feel judged. Talk anyway. Open up anyway. I've had people in my DMs telling me their story, things that they've never said to other people, because they now see that there's someone else who has struggled with OCD, someone who struggled with depression and anxiety openly with OCD. That's all it takes, is just seeing one person share their story, and it opens up a world of tree branches to other people who may feel safe enough to do the same. In a broader sense, the reason why I wanted to talk about loneliness today is because I feel lonely in my own life. That's something that I'm not too open about, and I want to be, because I sometimes look around and I see the highlight reels too often, and they're loud. They're really loud, and those highlight the differences between their lives and mine, and it makes me overly critical of my own life. I really am so blessed to have people in my life who love and accept me. Sometimes you feel the gap between what you have and who you have around you and how you feel. And that gap, that loneliness that you still feel, is deafening. And it's really hard to not judge yourself because you can get down on yourself. You're like, fuck, man, like you have so much in your life. What are you down about? Why do you still feel lonely? And it takes a lot of courage to look inward and say, yeah, loneliness sucks. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't feel it. It's okay to feel it. It's okay to feel loneliness. We all feel loneliness. And it's a part of the spectrum of the human experience. We can't know loneliness unless we've known the opposite, which is togetherness and acceptance and love. Like, we can't know loneliness. So what a gift it is to know loneliness. And I've never said that out loud. I don't think I've even said that to anybody else, but it's true. If you have OCD, if you have generalized anxiety disorder, depression, bipolar, ADHD, whatever it is, nothing. It's okay to move forward with fear and loneliness. I was talking at the beginning of this episode about my shirt. That's one of the things that I do to feel less lonely. And I'm not lonely. I feel lonely. And I think there's a difference. I have amazing people in my life. And us as humans, we're always looking for that extra missing puzzle piece that we think will fix everything. And then you get that puzzle piece and then you realize, wait, no, it was a different piece. Then you feel even worse about it. But I truly believe that loneliness was meant to be felt, not pushed away. I have spent so long trying to push loneliness away. And how do I do it? I work a lot. I am the initiator to call people in my life. Other times I'm the guy who hides away in a cave. And sometimes there's no in between for me. But they're both ways for me to avoid feeling that hole. It feels like a hole. It feels like a dark hole that's never ending. And the more you try to fill it, the bigger the hole gets. It's like a dark hole. And sometimes you just need to leave it be. Allow yourself to feel lonely and to feel the emotions that come with that. And it's so interesting how you start to see connection everywhere if you look for it. Like I talked about earlier, going to the coffee shops with this shirt, just to have the door open to ignite conversation if it happens. Walking into the coffee shop, I saw two birds just splashing in the puddle, and one looked a little bit bigger than the other. So I'm thinking in my head, oh, mother and baby. And how beautiful it is that we exist in the same place and we express love on a daily basis. Here I am going into a coffee shop to seek connection and love. And here are two birds playing and whistling and spending time with each other, doing the same thing. That's so beautiful. And if I wasn't feeling lonely, I probably wouldn't have left the house and done that. It got me out of my work. It got me out of the four walls that I exist in. And it reminded me that there's connection all around us. And sometimes those little moments of connection can help us feel a little bit less lonely. And you can tell me, yeah, but I just want a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or everybody has this and I don't have that, and this and that. And you are 1,000,000% valid to feel like that, because we also live in a world where, you're on Instagram and you see everybody posting about their weddings and babies and going back home for the month and traveling on vacation and la-di-da. But to bring this home to my initial point, it doesn't matter if you have a lot of people around you. It doesn't matter if you're traveling the world. It doesn't matter what's going on. You can still feel lonely, and it's okay. I saw something on Instagram the other day about somebody talking about, don't try to kick away your demons. Sit down with them and have a coffee and ask them questions and ask them about their scars. You know, all of our emotions are sitting around a table and they all want a voice. When somebody tells you to shut up and doesn't give you a voice, how do you feel? Maybe our emotions are no different. Maybe they all need a voice and they demand to be heard. I'm not 1,000,000% sure why I made this episode, but I will tell you that I'm glad I did, because I just want to talk about loneliness, and I want to reach out and connect to people who feel lonely too. We're all just wearing masks and going to our day jobs and acting as if we're not on some rock in the middle of space, acting like there's a big difference between you and I. There's not. I haven't done this in a while, and I think I want to, where I had a few questions come in on the website. And as always, if you would like to ask a question to be read on this podcast, you can. If you go to my website, www.pleaseexcusemyocd.com, click on Ask Me a Question and submit there. You can also sign up for my blog that will be coming soon, where I'll just be sending out weekly blogs talking about just personal stuff, really to just connect, to keep the conversation going. And the question is, my friends make OCD jokes like, I'm so OCD, when they wash their hands or whatever, and it's really annoying. What should I do? Rose, thank you for your question. I have heard that my whole life, and I believed it at one point. I hear it in my own family. The last time I heard it, I didn't get angry. I didn't lash out. I think that's something to really point out here, is we're not going to change people's minds and educate them from a place of anger. We have to educate from a place of love. So I want you, my friend, to understand really what OCD is for me, because it's not what you think it is. And so I had a family member say something along the lines of, well, we're all a little bit OCD. And that's a very false statement. It's not accurate. It's something that this family member was taught and believed, truly. I corrected this family member and I said, that's not true. OCD is a disabling disorder. A very small percentage of the population has it. So not everyone has OCD. And I explained to this family member the kind of thoughts that I would have and compulsions and the kind of pressure that OCD put on my life from a little child. And this family member was just so taken back and just felt so sad for little Tyler. They apologized and they were just surprised that OCD was not what they thought it was. And so what I'm trying to say is the best way for you to educate is to do it with love. And how do you do that? Hey, that's not actually how OCD works. Let me tell you from my experience really what OCD has been for me, and let them hear that side. Of course, whatever you're comfortable with, but I think the best way we can educate is to be honest, share our experiences, and do it with love, never out of anger. It's easy to be angry. It's easy to get angry at people who may belittle the experience, but I think it's more out of ignorance and just lack of knowledge rather than trying to minimize our struggle. So I hope that answers your question. This next one is from Callie. I hope I pronounced your name right. I'm not the best with names. I'm a teenager struggling with contamination OCD now, and I'm scared of everything. I kind of feel like my life is in constant danger 24/7, 30 days a month, 365 days a year, and nothing is ever okay. I feel like I'm dirty in the inside and I'm like the worst person on earth. I actually drank hand sanitizer last week and I'm so freaked out, but ERP just freaks me out until I have to double my rituals. So what should I do? My therapist says I'm not going to die, but it's just too much. Can I ever get out of this? I am so sorry, Callie, to hear of your struggle. I know it. I understand it too well. Everything you're feeling is valid. I know that ERP seems scary to you. And I will tell you, as a 30-year-old, I am just now starting to seek ERP because my whole life has been talk therapy. And I realized while that can be good for other areas of my life, that's not good for my OCD. And so I'm scared too. I am scared to start ERP. I am scared to look inward and face the things that I'm scared of the most. But I will tell you, I've met so many people in the OCD community who have been through ERP, who are still in ERP, who are just now getting involved in ERP. There's so much information about debunking ERP. It's all values based. So you don't just dive into the ocean, the deepest part of the ocean, without a life jacket. This is a step-by-step process that you go through with a professional. I think it's important to know that there are options for treatment and that what works for one person may not work for another. But the fact that there's many, many success stories, and it is considered the gold standard for OCD, ERP is something that it's okay to be afraid of. I've also been on medication for 11 years, and I tried a few medications, but I think that without the medication I'm on, I would not be able to function. I know what I'm saying might not help, and I'm not trying to reassure you because that will keep you in the cycle. But what I am trying to say is that you, my friend, are not alone. There are so many people who have struggled in the same ways and have gotten help, and it does work. And I'm somebody who I've had contamination OCD, extreme contamination OCD since I was 10 years old. Although I haven't gotten the proper ERP treatment, I have been able to get to a point where I have been able to live my life. Right now, I'm living my life in the best way I can. I can't tell you that I am free, but I can tell you that I'm not afraid to leave my house like I was. I hope that gives you a little bit of hope or at least sends you in the right direction. But I do want to just make you aware that I 1000% understand your struggle and I 1000% understand how you're feeling and you are not alone. I hope that this episode on loneliness helps you feel less lonely. So I guess that was the message here. You can find me at www.pleaseexcusemyocd.com. You can sign up for the blog. You can ask me questions there. On social media, Instagram and TikTok, I do a lot of videos talking about OCD, little clips separate from the podcast as well on there. So connect with me there. I'd love to chat with you. And I can't wait to see you next week.